this is what I say to people. If you guys are trying to figure it out step by step, and you're trying to learn the steps as you go, you're going to get burned. You got to know the game before you could go out there and start playing the game. Because they don't have to help you learn the rules. It was like what they did to you the other day, Bali. They said to you, well, do you want to be a McKinsey friend? And you're like, no. Well, they were basically saying, oh, you just said McKinsey friend. I think that's something that you legalese people do. Yeah, I guess I could accept that if the court will take notice that, yes, I'll be a McKinsey friend, but what it is I am actually speaking on behalf of my father. My father wishes me to speak for him. See how they take that. If they don't take that, they say, well, okay, how about this? Like I did with the judge one time where he said you put in the forged commercial paperwork to the public from a trust. I had to explain to him 3 different ways. The first time I was like, nah, you know what, I'm not buying that. It's like, okay, maybe you'll buy this. It's like I'm a salesman. Maybe you'll buy with this option. How about I try this? And he's like, no, I'm still not seeing it. I was like, okay, how about this? So I gave him 3 different ways of looking at it. And he says, okay, the court's taking notice, and let's move on to the next charge. So then, like I said, I explained to him 3 different ways of looking at it. And I said, hopefully one of those 3 ways will work. One of those ways that he'll say to himself, okay, it came from a private trust, not a public trust.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for some other guys to make donations to dispatchuk.com, and then for those guys who keep sending emails and saying they wanted to hear what Karl actually says in a court case, if there is anybody out there that keeps asking that, I'll say that's fine. I was already there. I don't really care. I've already been there. But if you really want to see the transcripts for it, if you make the donation towards, there'll be somewhere on there on that website that says a donation to Karl's transcripts for that particular case, and then people can actually see properly what everybody has actually said in that thing. And
or even just the verdict. The verdict was a lot of fun. Just get them
oh yeah, damn right. That was just hilarious.
Yeah. Just let them do the verdict.
Like you say, it's all the time. It's interesting. You always kept saying, even when the first few times when I ever rang, you kept saying to me, give me a summary. Give me a summary of what you thought, what you saw, what you see in front of you. And when somebody gets really upset about what they see in front of them or saw or what they see, and when they make that summary, then it's hilarious, because it's straight away you start to see the stuff between the lines, and you just think, oh, okay, so it's not meant to be that scary, and it's not meant to be this, and it's not meant to be that. No, it isn't. Oh, you thought you did. Oh, you thought it was that scary. Oh, okay. So why are you getting so angry about everybody else? Just because you thought it was supposed to be scary. Nobody else told you it was scary. Just you did. You thought it yourself. You thought you'd just get scared like there was some sort of ghost behind every little corner, every little street, every little bush. Oh, okay, so you thought you'd take your pain out on against the rest of the world just because you thought you'd get scared too easily.
The big thing is, like I said, Father, I can tell what's going to happen is there's got to be some sort of little book. There's got to be some sort of DVDs, and there's got to be some paperwork that people could just use to get out of situations like Mark's in.
Like get out of jail, please.
Yeah, just get out of jail quick. Right. This is how you do it. This is the paperwork that you have somebody on the outside who's got power of attorney that local court will recognize to submit paperwork on your behalf. It's just like I'm saying with my sister the other day. I picked up a really old car, a really old Studebaker, and I said to my sister, "Wow, this is perfect car to use as an example of how not to get it registered or titled through the state. This is a perfect example of how I'm going to just write to the Secretary of State, Department of Motor Vehicles, the local sheriff's department, and just say, I have this car fully indemnified. And it's either in the form of an escrow or form of a bond or in the form of an insurance policy that the state requires as a minimum standard of coverage when I take my property out into society. And then I'll give them proof of the coverage. And so, is there anything else that you require by a man to compel to take my property from point A to point B in your state? Let me know, Bob. Let me know, Sue. Let me know, Joe. And they'll say, well, you have to register your vehicle. I say, let me see. It's a 1961 Studebaker. Let me see. What would be my benefit of registering it and titling it with the state? What benefit would I derive? Now, I understand the benefits that the state will derive. I totally understand that they will be able to claim my property as worth the state has increased in value by $100. And by claiming that the state has now increased its net worth because it exists upon this land in this section of the world, now this section of the world is $100 richer. It has more value. This section of the planet Earth is worth $100 more. I understand that. The only problem is that if the state wants to have an action against me, they will be able to take my property away from me a lot easier because it's recorded with the state. And the state will say, well, Karl hasn't conformed to this statutory code. Karl is in non-compliance of Title 78, subsection 3012, subsection Q. He's not in full compliance, so we're taking that call. So, because I'm not in compliance with Title 78,006, subsection Q, some ridiculous, insignificant code in the middle that somebody felt like writing, because I'm not in full compliance, you're going to take my car? It's like, well, technically it's not your car because, you surrendered it to the state. So, like I said to my sister, this is a perfect example. I said, a modern car, people would say, well, Karl, just go along with the program. Karl, just go along and just do what everybody else does. It's a new car. Everybody just does it, just do what everybody else does. So people will clearly see it's a very old car, and it looks like no other car out there. And if I say, look, I just don't wish to put license plates on it. I just don't wish to fly somebody else's flag on my car. I just don't wish to be granted a title to go from point A to point B. I don't need permission to go from point A to point B. I pay the taxes by paying the gas taxes, the taxes that maintain the highways, and I'm fully indemnified. So, like I said to my sister, trying to find the best way to just stick a license plate or a tag on the back of the car that says private, or that says insured, or says bonded, or says, indemnified, something to let the cops know that, look, this is either private property, and it's none of your damn business, or it's insured, so don't worry about that I ain't got plates on it, or that it's bonded. That if I cause any harm or wrong or anybody, I'm covered, and I'll make sure they're covered. And like I said, I said to my sister, I said, it's going to be a while before the car gets on the road anyway, so this is a good time to practice with sending paperwork to, like, the Secretary of State and the Sheriff's Department. And like I said, what's going to happen is if other people try to do what I do, I know they're going to try to do it to avoid paying money. That they think they're going to drive their car for free. Then I'm not telling them to do that. I'm telling them still pay your insurance policy on the car. Still put a bond on the car.
Yeah.
I'm not telling them not to carry car insurance. That's insane. Because 100% of the people, if they get into an accident and they don't want to pay for the damage that they caused, they're going to just say, you know what, F the guy I hurt. You know what, I'm going to go to the movies this week. I'm not going to take away from my family. Sorry I hit and killed this guy, but that's not my problem anymore. That guy's dead, or that guy's in a wheelchair. They got national health. I'm not worried about him. He's fine. I'm not worried about what I did to my neighbor. He's got friends and families. I got a life of my own. It's a terrible accident that happened, but it's not my fault. Too bad. And it's the same thing, like I say to people, they said that's what Dean Clifford got started with, is because he let somebody drive one of his vehicles who didn't have a driver's license. And the man didn't have a driver's license, and the man went out with one of Dean's vehicles and killed somebody with the vehicle. And Canada law is very specific like that. It says if you are aware that somebody doesn't have a license and you allow them to drive your vehicle anyway, you're responsible for the wrong. You're responsible for the damages. So then Canada gave Dean, I think it was back in 2007, a bill for $50,000. And he says, I ain't paying it. I ain't paying it effing dime. I wasn't driving it. That's a ridiculous law. How could I be liable for a different man's actions? And they're like, well, he wouldn't have had access to that vehicle if you didn't give it to him. And you knew he didn't have a license. Or you knew as he was a drunk driver. And you let him do it anyway. Like, you got to be your brother's keeper. You got to watch out. You got to. Some states, it's funny. Some states actually have something called Samaritan laws, like the Good Samaritan. So there are some states that have Good Samaritan laws that you have to help. If you see somebody choking, you have to stop and help them. If you see somebody's car on fire, you have to stop and help them. It's funny, there are some states that actually have Good Samaritan laws that requires you to take care of your neighbor, whether you want to take care of your neighbor or not. You ain't got a choice. And I guess that province in Canada where Dean lives says, hey, you know what, there's not many of us up here in Canada. If we don't take care of each other, who will? There's just not enough for us to go around. So I guess they have Samaritan laws up there, Good Samaritan laws up there as well. And it basically just said if you know that somebody doesn't have a license or you know somebody's getting in a car and they're drunk and you don't stop them, you're going to be held liable. It's the same thing that happened with me and the mother of my kids. When I got home on one night, my sister's birthday in 2001, she was drunk. And I told my sister, and she got pissed that I wasn't talking to her. I said, look, I'm talking to my sister it's her birthday. She's like, oh, F you and F your sister. I'm out of here. So my sister said, what's her problem? I said, she's just drunk. She's going out driving. And my sister said, you better go stop her, pull those keys out, and stop her. And I told her, the state of Alabama ain't a Good Samaritan state. I said, if I take her keys, I'm going to jail. You do know that, right? And she says, it doesn't matter. What happened if she kills somebody? I said, I'm up on a second story in a brick building. Her car does not have wings. It will not fly through this window. I will be fine. She goes, Carl, come on, stop. What happened if she kills some wife and some mother and children? I said, oh, well. I said, I guess that's just God's will. And she said, what if I'm coming down your road right now, Carl, and I'm surprising you on a surprise visit, and she comes out and kills me and my kids? I said, okay, fine. I said, but you know I'm going to go to jail, right? You do know that, right? You're fully aware, right? And she's like, that's fine. Go to jail. So as soon as I pulled the keys out of her car, threw them in the house, she came in after the keys. I put the sofa across the door so she was going to get out that night. And next morning I was in jail. And I said to my sister, we don't have Good Samaritan laws here in Alabama. If you take somebody's keys away from them, you can't. That's theft. You can't steal somebody's property. You've got to allow them to go out and drinking and driving. What you have to do, according to Alabama law, is you dial 911 and you call the police. And you tell the police there's a drunk driver out there, and they pull the keys out. You can't pull the keys out. They got to pull the keys out. Like if you see somebody drinking and driving in Alabama, you can't just cut the guy off the road and stop his car and say, you're drunk, buddy, and I'm taking your keys. And just say to the guy screaming and crying, I want my fucking keys back. No, dude, you're going to go to jail. You can't just stop that guy because he's drinking and driving. You can't. It's ridiculous. Some states just, you have to call the experts in. You have to call 911. You have to call the police in. Or in England, it's like whatever, 999. You got to call the police in. And they are the only ones that could stop that man and grab his keys away from him. You can't. So, like I said, it's, what's funny is, but that got thrown out because of when we finally got to court, there was a nice old black judge. And he said, she said, are you telling me that man pulled your keys out of your car because you were drunk and you tried to drink and drive? I was like, yes. And the judge was like, holy cow, lady, you're going to go to jail. And I said, no, you can't put her in jail because she's 4 months pregnant. He says, oh, I can put her in jail. I said, well, no, even in Alabama, I guarantee there's a law that says that you can't put her in jail until after the baby is born. I said, that's basically universal law. You have to wait for the baby to be born. So the judge is like, I'm going to put you both in jail. But he's a real cool black man. He was funny as hell. And but we worked out an arrangement, so that worked out fine. But like I said, some states have good Samaritan laws and some don't. So I guarantee Canada is one of the good Samaritan law. It's one of the good Samaritan, provinces where he lived. I don't know if he lived in Manitoba or something like that, but I guarantee they said you have to stop somebody from doing wrong. You can't just let people go out there and do wrong. You have to act like a policeman. You have to tell your fellow man you must stop. And if you don't stop, guess what? I'm going to stop you because you're going to hurt people. And I'm not going to sit back and allow that to happen. Not on my watch. So he failed to do that, and he got hit up with a $50,000 fine. And then he started attacking driver's licenses and insurance companies, for why do we have to have insurance? Why do we have to have a driver's license? Why do we have to have titles on cars? So, like I said, to me, I'm not telling people to stop, insuring their cars. I'm just telling them I'm not going to fly your flag on my car. It's like taking a ship or a boat out in the ocean. They want to see what flag you're flying on the back of it. Say, show us the flag. Which flag? What nation? France, Uruguay, Panama. Whose nation are you, who's claiming that this vessel is registered to? What's the registry of the ship? And to me, it's like, you know what? I'll go it alone. But then the United States will say, well, wait a second, if you're not on the United States flag, we can't save you, we can't protect you. I say, oh, really? You know what? I'll take my chances. I think maybe a good Coast Guard guy will help me. He will save me. He will protect me. I think he will ignore that fact that I'm not flying the flag. I think he'll just do it because he's helping his fellow man. It's like, well, no, if he calls us in to help you, we'll ask him what flag you're flying, and if we don't see the flag, we're not going to help you. I was like, you know what? I'll take my chances. And like I said, especially with an old vehicle like that, like a 1961 Studebaker, I'd say to the people, I said, honestly, what's the odds of this thing being on the road more than one day a year? This thing would probably be sitting in a museum or somebody's garage or somebody's barn for the next 50 years. So show me what kind of harm, loss, or injury would anybody, any man or woman in the Commonwealth of Virginia accrue because of my failure to register what title is vehicle. Show me. And we'll negotiate, and we'll work something out. But if not, I wish to do it this way. This is my property, and I wish to put this on the back of my vehicle. I'm going to put the word private, or I'm going to put the word insured on the back of it, so if a cop pulls up behind me, he sees the word insured. And he realizes, oh, okay, he's insured. He might not have the right, stickers on his car, the right colors of the plates. He might not have, Virginia flying on the back of it. Oh, well. But the big thing is that he's insured, and he's going to make sure that if he causes any harm in our community and not to our citizenry, that they're indemnified, that they're covered, that he's got at least the wherewithal to make sure he covers his neighbor. And I think that's all the cops are really going to want to see, and I think that's all Virginia is going to want to see, the Commonwealth of Virginia is going to want to see, is that I am looking out for my neighbor. And I think they're going to say, that's fine, that's okie dokie. But like I said, I never had a car that old that I could just play with. That is really no consequence whether or not I drive it one day down the road or 100 days down the road. So it's just a good test sample of how to do something like this. And, say the state of, the Commonwealth, what do you need? Do you want the policy number? Do you want the bond number? You know what? You want to know the account number and where it's held in escrow? You know, what are you going to require to make sure that I'm legitimate? You know, that I'm actually telling you what I'm saying is true. That this car really does have coverage to protect my neighbor in case I have a heart attack or I have a stroke and I run off the road and I run over somebody. I don't mean to, but you know, you never know. Something like that could happen to me. So that's what I'm going to start working on. And like I said to people, said there's got to be a way for us to start setting up paperwork for each other. That if, like I said, if something goes wrong, that people have a pretty good idea how to proceed next. Like, what's the next step? Instead of like Mark, he's just kind of like winging it. You know, he's doing this step and then he's doing this step, and now he gets in this trouble. You know, then he calls me up and says, "Okay, now what do I file? Now what do I do?" I was like, "You're kidding me." I was like, "No, I'm not kidding you. Don't you think it would have been a good idea?" Like, he gave somebody advice not too long ago, and then that person called me up. And I said, "Oh, really? Who told you this?" He said, "Oh, Mark told me." He said, "Okay, that's lovely advice." And I told the man, I said, "But before you do this, how about you do this step and this step?" Like, he called him step 1 and step 4. And I called him Mark right after. I said, "Yeah, that was lovely advice you gave the man." He was like, "Yeah, you gave him this, and then you told him to do that." That's right. "But did you understand there was 2 more steps in between?" He was like, "No, what are they?" And I told him. He said, "Oh, that's right. I remember those." I was like, "Yeah, but this man could get in a lot of trouble if you don't get all 4 steps down properly. You just bypassed. You know, it's like driving a car and down the road you're fixing the car. And it's like, okay, now you put the brakes on the car, the rims on the car, you got the battery in, the car started up, you start to roll. It's like, did you forget to, 1, check the brakes, and 2, did you forget to make sure the lug nuts were on tight? Well, it's like, well, I got the brakes on. It's like, yeah, but did you check the brakes? Well, no. Well, I put the wheels on. Did you use lug nuts? Or you just put them on? It's like, yeah, are you sure that they're tight? Well, no, I just put them on. Well, you want to check and make sure everything's tight before you move forward? It's like, well, no, that's close enough. Close enough, really. You realize we're going to do 100 miles an hour. Well, what? Yeah, we're going to move fast. It's got to be tight. It can't be kind of close or sloppy. It's got to be dead on. This isn't time to be sloppy. This ain't time to be lazy. You want to play this game? It's deadly game. It's actually, you're going to lose a lot of time of your life if you don't know how to control the game. If you don't understand that you better make this tight, because these people are experts. You're racing against somebody else who already knows how to do 100 miles an hour, and they're not going to lighten up on you. They're going to come at you wide open. So you better be able to move just as fast as they can. And if you can't move that fast, well, you better practice a lot more. And it's really not that much to it. Like Jesse did up in Canada. Like I said, I just spent 10 days on the phone with her, 10 freaking days. Like 2, 4, 5, 10 hours a day talking to her every day. For 10 days. And all we were doing was 2 little sentences. That's all we were doing. But I had to just keep saying to her, look, if they say this, this is what you do. If they come at you from the left, this is what you do. If they start to drive around you from the right, this is how you stop them. If they try to come forward right head on, this is what you do. If they try to come from behind, this is what you say. This is what you do. This is how you react, or this is how you don't react. This is what you do, or this is what you don't do. And luckily, when it all came down to it, the big thing that all the judge did with her was like, don't you care why the robber robbed you? Don't you care why that woman robbed you of your property? Don't you care to know why? So it's like, thank God, man, we went over that. Thank God that was one of the things that I coached her with. It's like, ask him, why would I care why a raper raped me? Why would I care? Why a man rapes me is because something I was wearing, he couldn't control himself. I don't care. There's no excuse. You don't rape. You don't rob. Robbery is robbery. Rape is rape. I don't care why they rape. I don't care why they rob. I require you to give me back my property now.